Hello, everyone. This is Sean from the Soccer Nostalgia blog. I have the pleasure to interview Argentine journalist Mr. Nacho Dimari. Mr. Dimari has appeared multiple times on the podcast discussing the matches of the Argentine national team. With the World Cup approaching and Argentina and Poland paired together, we take a closer look at the match history between the nations. This interview is separate from a podcast series. This video interview will serve as a companion piece to a written blog presentation on the head to head encounters between Argentina and Poland. Hello, Nacho. Always a pleasure.
How are you, Sahan?
Thank you. Thank you. So let's discuss the matches between Argentina and Poland. The
Mhm.
first matches between the nations took place in the 1960s. On June 11, 1966, as part of the World Cup preparations, Argentina hosted Poland at Buenos Aires, and the match ended as a 1-1 tie. 2 years later, in another friendly on December 17, 1968, this time at Mar del Plata, Argentina narrowly defeated Poland 1-0 with a penalty kick. I assume, unless you're a football historian, not much is remembered from these relatively insignificant matches.
Yes, that's right. I'm not so old, so I don't remember those matches. I was born in '66, so I barely remember if I read something sometimes, but I didn't saw those matches, and I have no memory at all.
Yes. Things would pick up in the 1970s. The most noteworthy match between the nations was during the 1974 World Cup in West Germany. In a group match at Stuttgart on June 15, 1974, Poland signaled its entry as a player on the world stage with an important 3-2 win that set them on course for a successful World Cup, where they would finish third. What was the importance of this encounter?
Uh, well, it was a very important match for Argentina. That was the first World Cup that they played from the one in England '66. Argentina didn't have the chance to qualify for Mexico in '70. So the World Cup in Germany was very important. Argentina was already named to be the next country to organize the World Cup in '78. And even if there were some troubles in the national team, not only the national team, the Football Association was not in a good shape, we could say. But even though there were very good players in that team, and the result in that World Cup, even if was not a very good, it was I think that it had his influence in the future. Uh, in that team in Argentina, you could find Kempes. You could find Filiol. He didn't play the match with Poland because he was the third goalkeeper, and he played the last match. You have Roberto Perfumo, who was one of the best defenders in football history here in Argentina. Um, it was a very good team in names, but not in a team word, you know.
Yes.
And I remember Poland with, first of all, Gregor Zlato, who became the top scorer in that World Cup. Casimir Reina, Tomaszewski, the goalkeeper. I remember perfectly most of the players in Poland, that the most part of them repeat 4 years later in Argentina.
Yes. So the nations would meet one another three more times during this decade of the 1970s, as both were major football nations in this decade. Argentina were to host the 1978 World Cup, and new Argentina manager Cesar Luis Menotti preferred to face the best of Europe to prepare the team. So
Mhm,
Argentina tested itself against a strong Polish side first on March 24, 1976 at Chorzo. Argentina won this match 2-1. A year later, Argentina hosted a number of European nations within a month, and Poland was one of his opponents. So on May
mhm.
29th, 1977, at La Bombonera, Argentina defeated Poland 3-1. What do you remember from these two encounters?
Well, I remember the two, well, the tour in Europe, as you said, was very important because they face not only Poland, but I think that they face Germany, they face
Hungary, I believe.
Russia,
Hungary, I believe. Yeah.
Hungary,
Yeah.
Russia, I think, the USSR. It was the match where they played in the snow, and Gatti was the goalkeeper who was going to, we thought at the moment, be the goalkeeper at the World Cup, but at the last time, Menotti decided to pick up Filiol. And I remember the match here in Argentina, that it was also a series that the national team received, I think it was France, Scotland, Germany, West Germany in that time. It was West Germany, Poland, and uh, France. I name it, I think.
Yeah. And
Uh,
Yugoslavia and East Germany as well. Yeah.
that's right. The other Germany and Yugoslavia. Uh, and it was very important tour, both of them here in Argentina, that was played in the Bombonera because the Estadio Monumental, the River play, was preparing for the World Cup and was not useful at that time. I remember that Argentina in that tour had a almost uh, we can say 60% of the players that would be at the World Cup a year later. But Menotti also used that those matches to test different players that were at the top at that time. Not every one of them made it to the list of the World Cup in Argentina. But for example, I remember Houseman, who was at that time one of the top strikers. I remember Tarantini, who was a very good defender and fit in that team. Passarella made his first appearances in those in that tour and in those matches here in Argentina. And it was very important because, as you said before, those were the top teams in Europe at that time. And it was not like nowadays that uh, it's very easy to play with teams in Europe or between Europe and South America. At that time, it was not something that occurred all the time. So it was very intelligent from Menotti to make those friendly because it let him see the level of his players at that time compared to the players or the top players in those national teams in Europe.
Yes. So the next significant match between the nations was during the 1978 World Cup hosted by Argentina. In a second
Mhm.
round group game at Rosario, Argentina won 2-0 on June 14, 1978. It was the
Mhm.
match that Mario Kempes came to life by scoring twice and set Argentina on course for victory at the World Cup. The other noteworthy event was Ubaldo Filiol saving Dana's penalty kick. What is the significance of this match?
Well, let me tell you something. It was not only the two goals that Kempes scored, but the penalty that took place because he saved as a goalkeeper. He saved a goal, and that was the penalty that was shot by Dana and was saved by Filiol. That situation was something that nowadays you can imagine because there was no rule of the last man. Uh, if that rule would be in 1978, Kempes will be with a red card and would not play the rest, perhaps, of the series. But at that time, that rule was not applied, and Kempes saved, give the possibility to Poland to shot this penalty, and Dana shoot it. I remember very slow to the middle, and Filiol kept the ball. Kempes scored the two goals of that match, and it's very important because at the first round, Kempes didn't manage to score any goal, and there was some kind of doubts in the press, of course, not in Menotti, that it was not at his a very good moment for Kempes. And then he scored twice with Poland, and then twice again 2 months later with Peru, and the other two goals in
In the final.
the final against Holland. So I remember that match in 1978. I remember that in that team there was a very young and talented player in Poland called Sibi Boniek, who 4 years later would become one of the most important Poland players in history, of course. I remember Dana. I remember Lato, who also played that World Cup. I think that it was Tomasecki also
Yes,
in
yes.
as the goalkeeper. I mean, it was a very strong team because it was more or less the same team that was third in the World Cup in Germany, uh, and the group, the second stage group for Argentina was Peru, Brazil, Poland, and it was not so easy. And they had to score, for example, I remember they had to score at least 4 goals in the last match against Peru,
Mm.
and Argentina managed to score 6 times.
Yes, we know that.
That's another
Yeah.
story. That's nothing
Yes,
to do with Poland.
that's a whole other podcast. Yeah.
That's right. I imagine.
So now we come to the decade of the 1980s. The
Mhm,
sides met three times. The first two were significant preparation friendlies. Argentina were now defending World Cup champions, and Poland were still a significant power in European football. Now
mhm,
Diego Maradona was in the mix, but
mhm,
unfortunately, he would get to play in only one of these matches. So on October 12, 1980, at Buenos Aires, Argentina defeated Poland 2-1 with a Maradona free kick. A year later, again at Buenos Aires, on October 28, 1981, Poland defeated a Maradona-less Argentina 2-1 with a Zbigniew Boniek free kick. The third match in this decade was a low-key match in India as part of the Nehru Cup. Yeah, Argentina, now managed by Carlos Bilardo, tied 1-1 with Poland on January 17, 1984 at Calcutta. And
Mm.
this was more or less the end of the great Polish side in the 80s. So, how are these matches regarded?
Well, the the match that I remember the most, it's the last one in the Copa Nero, because I remember the preparation that Bilardo made in that tournament. That it was very bizarre, that tournament, because not there were not all the professional players.
Sure.
I remember that there was some young players in Argentina too, but
Right.
Bilardo tried to prepare the team for the World Cup in Mexico. And I remember that when they arrived to Nehru, they before arriving to Nehru, they stopped in I think it was New York, if I don't remember badly, and they used to train in the Central Park because Bilardo tried to uh, uh, try to um, be in any details, and if they had time in this scale that they made, if they had time to made a training, they used to go anywhere and train. It doesn't matter if it was the Central Park or I don't know, the lobby of a hotel. But Bilardo was like that. And I remember, I think that there was a middle field with B, not Boniek,
Bunkol.
Bukol.
Bunkol, yes.
Yes, I think that he was one of the most important players in that Poland side. And in Argentina, I remember that in the Copa Nero, it was there was, I think it was Ruggeri, Cooper, who then became more famous as a trainer in Italy and in other
Right.
leagues in Mallorca. I remember also that it was you can find Gareca as a striker,
Buruchaga.
uh, Burruchaga that was a young midfield at that time,
Ponce.
and Ponce, who
Right.
didn't make it to the World Cup. It was a very strong team, but Maradona, for example, didn't play in that tournament. I remember that, and I think that Argentina also played with against India
And
and
Romania, I believe, yeah.
Romania,
Yeah.
yes, or Hungary. I don't remember which of the two teams.
Probably both.
But you know that one of the most important uh, matches between not a national team in this case, but between Poland and a team in Argentina was the one that took place in Mar del Plata in 1986, in February 1986, between River Plate and Poland. At that time, it was very common that the friendly tournaments in the summer took place in Mar del Plata, and from time to time, one European national team used to came here and play in that tournament. And that match between River and Poland was an incredible match. River Plate won 5-4, and the last goal was one of the most incredible goals in history of River Plate. This is it's no joke. It's like that. Everybody remember because it was a bicycle kick by Uruguayan striker Enzo Francescoli. And that national team from Poland was also with very good players. and that team, I don't remember, they didn't manage to qualify to Mexico, huh?
No, they did. They did.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember which group was in Mexico. I'm going far away from what you're asking, but
They were in a group with England, Portugal, and Morocco.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't remember. But well, it was a very good team. I have lots of souvenirs and memories from football in Poland. If I have to name three players, I will name Boniek, first of all, Lato, and Dana. I think that those were the three players that most impressed myself.
Yes. So the sides only met once in the 1990s. By now, Poland were a fading force in Europe that may have resulted in the frequency drop between the meetings. So on November 26, 1992, at Buenos Aires, Argentina defeated Poland 2-0 in a forgettable match. Uh, the goals were like by Cravioto and Medina Bayo. Uh, do you remember this match and the changing fortunes between the nations in this decade?
Yes, I remember that that team was built up by Alfio Basile. Um, it was, am I right? No? Yes, it was
Yes.
Basile.
Yes.
Okay. It was a team that at that time used to have a lot of players who played in Argentina. I mean that Medina Bello, I think he was in River at that time. Cravioto, he was from first he was at Estudiantes and then he played in Independiente. I don't remember exactly right now in which of those teams played at the time of that match exactly, but was one of the most important defenders in that team. I think that perhaps I remember Tata Martino, the Mexican trainer, was at that team. A lot of young players like Ruggeri was one of the defenders. Um, uh, who else? I think that Gamboa was one of another of the December of the defenders. Who
Simeone.
was Simeone, a young Simeone, because
Yes.
he was a very young player at that time that was making his first appearances at the national team. Um, Let me see, but because that was uh, the team that then tried to qualify to the World Cup in USA and was beaten by Colombia at the last match here of the stages, and they had to make a tie against Australia.
Yes.
Um, but I think that that Argentine team was at that time was a very good one. They were having an unbeaten series of 30, 33
Right. Right.
matches. That that record was beaten now by Scaloni and the team um, the next thing that I have of that uh, team in Argentina. And I don't remember exactly what who were the Poland names.
Yeah, not many known players. Some of them who had just played in the 92 Olympics that won the silver medal. So it was
Mhm,
a young team too, on tour
mhm,
basically. Yeah.
mhm.
So now we come to the last match between the nations, which was over a decade ago in a friendly at Warsaw. on June 5th, 2011. Poland won this match 2-1. It was an end of a season friendly, and uh, and not much. I don't think there's anything memorable from this match. None of the main stars, I don't think, played in this match from either team. It seems like,
I don't
yeah,
remember it at all.
yeah, yeah.
I,
Well,
I
that says
have
it all. Yeah,
less memory than the 61. So
yeah,
imagine.
yeah, yeah. Well, nowadays matches come, really fast. So yeah, it's hard to keep track. It seems like in the last 4 decades or so, the sides have only met twice. What is this down to? Is it down to the fact that Poland was no longer a was no longer a force in world football?
Maybe, yes. I think that perhaps another teams took the place that Poland had. For example, Denmark, perhaps, and Poland. They have a little decline, and in in I don't have a memory of. I think that for me, in the 1980s, and then it a little bit they disappear
Mhm.
uh, because, as you said, uh, there was a time when they tried to, or they used to have strong steam, for example, for the Olympic Games. I think that the fall of the Berlin Wall was very significant to all those countries like Poland, Hungary, and the other ones, and they had some impact in the sport, and also, and of course, in football.
Yes. So the sides are to meet at the World Cup on November 30th. What kind of match do you expect at the World Cup?
Well, I think that uh, Poland doesn't have a very strong team, even though they have a very good striker, one of the most important strikers nowadays, that's Lewandowski. But I think that Argentina, it's doing very well. I think that Argentina will have no problem in the stages group in the first round. I think that, as we usually say, the World Cup will start in the second round. I mean, the first round, I think that Argentina will have no trouble. Uh, no, with Mexico, I don't know, the
Saudi
Arabian
Arabia.
team,
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, and Poland. I think that Argentina will qualify in the first place, and the real World Cup will start in the second stages.
Yes. So, in closing, the golden
Mhm,
age of matches between the nations was in a decade period between 1974 and the 1982 World Cups. And
mhm.
the sides met in high profile and memorable matches. What is your takeaway for this period's matches between the nations?
Um, what was for me the most important one,
Anyway,
of,
either way,
or a balance?
yes.
Um, well, if I have to remember, I my first thoughts goes with the World Cup in Argentina, and that match that we mentioned, where Kempes start to score his first two goals in that World Cup, and I think that was a key match for Argentina and a key match for Kempes, because Argentina had lost the last stage group match against Italy, and some doubts were starting to surround the team, the national team. And imagine the first match of that second stage, first one in Rosario, that was the adopted city for Kempes, who used to play in Rosario Central, and the match was going tied, and then though that penalty, that save, incredible save. Everybody down there, look out in YouTube and search for that save of Kempes as a stronger goalkeeper. The save then by Filiol, the two goals by Kempes, and I think that was the seed that that then became Argentina with the first World Cup, winning World Cup. I think that the seed was that situation that I told you before, the save of as a goalkeeper of Kempes, the save of Filiol, and then Kempes scoring twice.
Yes. Well, with that, I would like to thank you again for this interview. Please read the main blog article as well for more detail. The link is included on the video upload description, along with our respective contact information. In addition, on the following day, I will upload the compendium with all the lineups and any available photos and videos from the matches. Thank you again, and we'll talk again for matches of the Argentina national team.
Thank you. Thank you, and good luck to the USA national team in the World Cup too.
Thank you. and Argentina as well.
Okay. Thank you, Zahan.
Thank you so much.
Always. Bye-bye.
Take care.